Hello and welcome to the Friday episode of the Stand Up with Pete Dominic Daily program. Thank you very much for being here, for supporting me, for the support of the show. I've got the great Sam Youngman joining me today from the Alt Media and today's big stuff. And as always, he does not disappoint. If you want to jump to my conversation with Sam, it begins at 27 minutes. But first, I've got your headlines and your clips, or what I call the shit show, recapping yesterday in news. Want to thank everybody who joined me at last night's hangout. This is why on Fridays the show is up a little later in the morning, because I'm up late with you. And I had two, count them, dose Michelob Ultras last night. Shit got crazy. We did almost 3 hours. If you want to watch or listen or relive the hangout, a lot of great points were made, a lot of big laughs were had, and you, as a paid subscriber, patreon.com/Pete Dominic, can go watch it, because the link is in the show notes for today's show, as there are show notes for every day's show. I hope you're reading them, because you can also send in vitamin N nature photos. Please send them my way. StandUpWithPete@gmail.com for that. And any other thing that you want to talk about, suggest, or send my way, StandUpWithPete@gmail.com. And that's it. That's all. There are no ads on the show. I simply plug the show because it is supported by listeners like you. Best thing you can do outside of that is go subscribe over on YouTube and Substack. If you want to get a paid subscription at Substack, you could do that as well. And as always, you can Venmo me to support my work, and there is a link to the Venmo in the show notes as well. Okay, now I'm really done talking about the opening stuff, and it's time to get to the news. Let's get to those headlines from yesterday right now.
It's Pete's Headlines and Clip Show. Get in on the shit show.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, John Carroll, as always. And let's get after it. And yesterday, big news day. Yesterday, Newsday Thursday, was a big one. The Senate blocked a pair of proposals yesterday afternoon that were designed to avert rising healthcare premiums. The results made it all but certain that expanded Affordable Act Care subsidies, which millions of Americans depend on to afford healthcare coverage, would expire at the end of the month. All but 4 Republican senators voted to block a bid by Democrats to extend the insurance subsidies for 3 years. Separately, every Democrat and 1 Republican voted to block a Republican alternative that would replace the subsidies with an expansion of health savings accounts and direct payments of up to $1,500 for people on high deductible plans, and that would cover nothing. Like what would $1,500 would insane, just ridiculously insulting. In the fall, the New York Times writes, Democrats had declined to fund the government unless the subsidies were extended. After a record 43-day shutdown, a group of Democrats agreed to open the government in exchange for a vote. That vote they got yesterday, and it failed. Yet Democrats still feel good about the effort and are increasingly convinced that the shutdown worked in their favor. They say even though the proposal failed, Democrats were able to focus attention on an issue that plays to their strength. Many Republicans believe that the Affordable Care Act is fundamentally flawed and that the Democratic plan would simply maintain a bloated subsidy program that was meant to be temporary. But let's be honest, they're very nervous about the political backlash of allowing healthcare costs to rise while they're in the majority, and that is exactly what is going to happen. Is Chuck Schumer a genius? Me no thinks. But probably the top story yesterday, major development, and there is going to be pain, including potentially for me and my family, really worried about it. Well, Indiana's Republicans rejected the very anti-democratic gambit that Genghis Khanman has been pushing for months now. That's right, more than half of the Republicans in the Indiana Senate joined Democrats yesterday afternoon to vote down a congressional map that would have made it much easier for Republicans to win the only 2 U.S. House seats that they don't already control. The decision was a significant public defiance of Burger Gene King, who had for months demanded that the state's Republicans redraw their map. He also had called out some Indiana lawmakers by name, openly questioning their loyalty to the party, and pledged to back primary challengers against anyone who voted against the map. A major development. I cannot emphasize how big of a development this news story is, and it would definitely have effect on the midterm elections. So it seems every day, Nostradamus is losing power and looking more like a lame duck. Also yesterday, there was a lot of failure coming from the prosecutors of this regime. First, the Justice Department failed for a second time to get a new indictment against the New York Attorney General Letitia James, with the grand jury declining to return charges. Then we heard that a federal judge who ordered Kilmar Abrego Garcia to be immediately released from immigration custody, marking the latest twist in the case that the judge wrote is as well known as it is extraordinary. That was a major development. Oh, and if that isn't enough of failures from prosecutors at the Department of Justice, and how about a third one? Apparently there's a comedy club manager named Nathan Griffin who works at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. It wasn't there. It just got built when I was out there doing comedy years ago. I would perform and headline Zany's Comedy Club in Chicago. That's neither here nor there, though. This is about the Laugh Factory manager, Nathan Griffin, who, this is a really kind of remarkable story, but there were ICE agents looking for body camera they lost. And somehow they were trying to get into his comedy club, and he closed the door on their foot or something like that. Anyway, they failed to charge him in assault. A federal magistrate judge Wednesday granted the Department of Justice motion to dismiss charges against comedy club manager Nathan Griffin, and that was also a pretty big failure and story that I think probably got missed by most places. I saw it being reported in a couple. How about this? Measles outbreak in South Carolina. It's getting worse. No end in sight. Following Thanksgiving and other large gatherings, state officials said yesterday, apparently 111 measles cases has been reported in what's known as upstate South Carolina, an area northwest of the state that includes Greenville and Spartanburg. How about it? Good luck, South Carolina. Also saw that the Department of Homeland Security apparently signed a contract worth nearly $140 million to purchase 6 planes to deport people. That's right. I can think of a few better ways to spend $140 million, but this is a move that's going to allow the Department of Homeland Security to operate its own fleet after receiving massive funding increase from Congress. It's hard to estimate or to put into perspective how much money Republicans gave the Department of Homeland Security to conduct their deportation and ICE raids, etc. And finally, this depressing note, the regime has jettisoned the plan to honor the abolition of slavery and women's suffrage and the civil rights movement on the face of quarters that we all have in our pockets and probably don't even need for the nation's 250th birthday. So we're not going to celebrate the abolition of slavery. Why would we do that, right? We wouldn't want to remind anybody or make them feel bad or just erase history so we can bring it back. All right, well, those are your headlines. Now it's time to get to the clips that I've got for you, and there was a lot from yesterday because there was a whole bunch of testimony on Capitol Hill. I talked about it with Sam Youngman coming up, but first, there was a hearing yesterday, Homeland Security hearing yesterday, House Homeland, and there was a guy who testified from the FBI. His job is National Security Operations Director. His name is Michael Glasheen, and it was one of the worst moments I've seen, one of the dumbest and most ominous in a way moments I've seen on Capitol Hill in a real long time. That says a lot, I think, but he was being questioned because basically they are now categorizing at the FBI and the Department of Justice and all the agencies that are charged with being able to predict and prevent extremist groups in America, specifically domestic extremist groups. So they're basically targeting progressive, they just think are extremists, and not being worried about or being almost supportive of the right-wing extremist groups. So it's Antifa is the problem, and the Proud Boys are, I've never heard of them. Listen to Benny Johnson questioning Michael Glasheen yesterday.
Now you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
He said Antifa was the threat. And where are they?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist? Yeah. If it's a terrorist organization and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? We're trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'm asked one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the number one domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
Sir, you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove. I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
But you did. Damn. Had you seen that or heard that? If you haven't, you got to go watch it. And the same guy was then asked another question by another congressman. I'm not sure who this one was, but this is where he's saying he has no idea if the administration will designate the Proud Boys an extremist organization, even though they did in 2018. So what the hell?
Proud Boys as an extremist organization. Mr. Glasheen, are you familiar with the Proud Boys?
I'm familiar with the name, yeah, Proud Boys.
Okay. Does the FBI still designate the Proud Boys as an extremist organization? They did in 2018 in President Trump's first term.
We are in the process right now of changing our categories for domestic terrorists.
So they're no longer designated as an extremist organization. The FBI designated them an extremist organization in 2018. Has that changed?
I'm not aware that they did that.
It's all over the media, sir. It's widely reported. Can you get back to me on that?
Sure will.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. I don't even know how to react to that. So I'm just moving on to the next outrageous clip. This is Congressman Daniel Goldman, who now, by the way, is being primaried from his left by Brad Lander in New York City, where he represents. He's a congressional representative. Anyway, he does a good job, Daniel Goldman, questioning the head of the Department of Homeland Security and real-life Disney villain. It's Kristi Noem.
Let's talk about the law. Do you agree that asylum is a lawful pathway to immigrate to this country? Yes or no?
There's an asylum program, yes, in place.
All right. So immigrants then with ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Your question was?
Immigrants with ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country.
There are individuals in this country that have applications that...
And they are legally here because it's a lawful pathway, right?
It's a lawful pathway.
Okay. So if your department then deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law, correct?
Joe Biden left us with...
I'm not asking about Joe Biden. I'm asking you a specific question. If your department deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law. Is that correct?
It was greatly violated when they allowed...
I'm asking you.
People to come
I'm asking you.
Asylum applications.
Why are you filibustering? Why can't you answer the question? It's a simple question.
Your president...
If your department deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law. Isn't that correct?
The asylum program was broken under the last...
Mr. Chairman, I will reclaim my time. She's not answering the question. But the obvious answer is that, yes, if you follow a lawful pathway, asylum is a lawful pathway. If you have an open asylum case, you are here lawfully. But the problem that we are seeing around the country is that you are not following the law. Don't tell us to change the law. If you don't like the asylum system, you change the asylum law. Bring it to us. We'll work with you. I think it needs to be changed. But you can't just decide that you're not going to follow the law, and asylum is a law, and deport people who have ongoing applications. Unfortunately, that is exactly what's happening.
All right. Well, there you go. Daniel Goldman doing a great job. She's so dumb. I find her very dumb. I'm sorry, but, you know, I don't know how she got to where she is, but she has no good answers for anybody. No good ideas either. She just seems like a vindictive opportunist her whole career. And I don't know. I also have questions about her personal situation. Everybody says that she's having an affair with Corey Lewandowski. Alleged, obviously. But That's what I've heard from lots of people are always intimating that. He goes everywhere she is. And anyway, let's move on. How about this? Federal immigration agents tackled and arrested a Somali-American man in Minneapolis this past Tuesday. They detained him for about 2 hours for no apparent reason other than his ethnicity. The man who was arrested said the agents had trouble finding the building that they were supposed to be bringing him to while driving there. The 20-year-old was not suspected of any crime and described his ordeal during a Wednesday news conference alongside the mayor, Jacob Fry, and police chief Brian O'Hara, who each denounced the agent's actions. He goes by Mubashir. He declined to share his last name out of fear for him and his family. Sounds pretty smart. Good idea. He moved to the United States as a small boy, became a naturalized American citizen. He said he stepped onto a sidewalk during his lunch break when 2 masked men approached him in the heart of the city's Somali-American community where they are now on patrol. Sensing trouble, he ducked into a restaurant. They followed him inside, dragged him out, forcibly arrested him, handcuffed him, took him across the street, pushed him onto his knees in the snow, put him in a chokehold. He's screaming, "I've got my ID." The agents don't respond. They put him in an unmarked SUV, asked him to take his picture. He declined because how will a picture prove that he's a citizen? He said, "I have my passport. It's in my phone. Can I open it and show it to you? Give you my name, date of birth." They declined. Well, yesterday there was a news conference, and I just want to play a little bit from it for you now.
And I never expected to be standing in front of all these cameras and microphones. But what happened to me cannot stay quiet. What happened to me was unjust, uncalled for. I was simply on my lunch break. I literally went downstairs from my building. I wasn't even outside for mere seconds before I seen a masked person running at me full speed. He tackled me, pushed me inside the restaurant, like as you can see in the video. I told him I'm a U.S. citizen. What is going on? He didn't seem to care. He dragged me outside through the snow while I was handcuffed, restrained, helpless, and he pushed me to the ground and he put me in a chokehold. That was very uncalled for. I thought I got really hurt. And after that, they put me inside the vehicle. And they asked me, "We have to verify if you're a U.S. citizen because I believe you're an illegal citizen because you ran from me." But as you can see in the videos that will be released, I'm simply just standing still. I asked them, okay, they said, "Let me take a picture of you to scan your face to see if you're a U.S. citizen." I declined because how will a picture prove I'm a U.S. citizen? I told him I have my passport. It's in my phone. Can I open it and show you? He declined. I told him, can I give you my name and my date of birth? He declined because they turned off my phone. They turned off my location. They don't, you don't know where you're at. So I asked them, can you take me back to where you picked me up from? They said, no, you have to walk in the snow. They were being serious. I asked 3 times. They said, no, you're walking. But eventually my parents came and picked me up. And yeah, all I did was step outside as a Somali American, and I just got chased by a masked person. The agent then, at one point, he didn't identify himself. He didn't say, "ICE, stop." I felt like I was getting assaulted. I was getting kidnapped, and that's exactly what it was. And the way they were treating me, it was inhumane. They dragged me across the road. They slammed me to the ground, choked me. That was uncalled for. There's also more videos of someone came out. They had a copy of my passport. And I told the agent, he has my passport copy. And he said, we don't care, we're still taking you in. And they kept me for 2 hours. And if this is what's happening to a U.S. American citizen on camera, imagine what could happen to your loved ones when there's no one around to witness what they're doing.
Yes, that kid is now a hero. Mubashir, he was a victim, he survived it, and now I think he looks like a hero to me. Instead of saying, I could have got hurt, he should have said, I got really hurt, because I think a lawsuit is awaiting him and maybe a lot of other people who have been abused this way. But now here's more. The police chief, Brian O'Hara, apologized.
Thank you, Mubashir. And like the mayor, I apologize that this happened to you in my city with people wearing vests that say police. That's embarrassing. But what what really gets me is that this is just one story today. And it's a little overwhelming, just the volume of stories we're trying to sift through and figure out what's true and what's not, and kind of what may be happening. Like our mayor has said, we understand federal law enforcement has a job to do. To the extent that federal law enforcement is being precise, conducting targeted operations, and making lawful arrests, we understand that. I have no objection to that, of course. We would just hope that at least from a tactical perspective, things could be well planned beforehand, both for the safety of law enforcement as well as for the safety of people in our community. And that we wouldn't have to deal with so many stories after the fact of what at the very least are just questionable methods. And clearly a use of resources that doesn't appear to be getting a return on investment. You know, I am proud of how the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department have been handling this. With people in the field last night, with some of our lieutenants this morning that have been dealing with this and monitoring the situation. I wish the public could see how well they are managing such a difficult role. And a volume of which that they're trying to manage and trying to sift through and figure out what's true and what's not, while we're still trying to do our day-to-day responsibilities. That being said, again, random efforts in which individuals who are, including individuals who are American citizens, are being stopped because they appear to be Latino or because they appear to be Somali is wrong.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff from the police chief there, and I want to see more of that from more law enforcement leaders around the country. It would be good, and I don't expect it, but I'm happy to see it. Okay. All right. Now let's get to some comedy. There's so many other clips yesterday, but I'm running out of time and want to mention I've got supposed to be live today. If you're listening to this before 9 a.m. on the 12th, I'll have Barry Ritholtz joining me live. And then apparently a little after 11 a.m. on the 12th, I've got Dr. Christina Greer, Ritholtz and Greer on the same morning. It's a big Friday morning, so tune in over on YouTube and Substack. But here is Seth Meyers. We had some jokes for you here at the end from last night's NBC Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. When asked today about the bandage on President Trump's hand, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said, quote, "We've given you an explanation. The president is literally constantly shaking hands." With who? Freddy Krueger? I mean, as much as Trump sleeps, they've definitely met. After the crowd chanted 4 more years during a rally on Tuesday in Pennsylvania, President Trump said, quote, "In Trump time, 3 years and 2 months is called eternity." Oh, I think that's generous. Between ICE raids, Venezuela, and the economy, it feels like we're up to about 3 eternities a week. President Trump yesterday launched his Gold Card program, which offers an expedited immigrant visa process for foreign nationals who pay $1 million to the U.S. government, but it's still not the highest price someone's paid for citizenship. When asked in a new interview if he personally watched the video of a follow-up boat strike on suspected smugglers, President Trump said, quote, "I watch everything. Oh, I know." Trump's on the couch right now like another C-plus monologue from Myers. C-plus. I don't think he's ever been as high as C-plus. C-plus again. He's getting better. U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced yesterday that foreign tourists may have to provide 5 years of social media history before entering the country. Wow, I can't believe they did it. They found a way to make that line move slower. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Time magazine announced today that its Person of the Year are the, quote, individuals who imagined, designed, and built AI. Just think, thanks to them, next year we won't need a person of the year. An Oklahoma man was arrested recently after he allegedly tried to rob a liquor store with an antique gun from the mid-1800s. Well, be careful, because I'm pretty sure he always carries two of them. A 14-year-old boy in Vermont recently announced that he's running for governor. He made the announcement when his mom asked why he was taking so long in the bathroom. I'm running for governor. I am. I'm going to fix the roads. A dog in Oklahoma recently set a Guinness World Record with a nearly 8-inch tongue. The best is how bummed out you already are. Because I know the punchline, so it's not about to get better. A dog in Oklahoma recently set a Guinness World Record with a nearly 8-inch tongue. Where in Oklahoma yelled this poodle?
I like it. I love his monologue. I like his delivery. I think it's my favorite. So that's why I keep going back to it. Who's with me? Who do you like? Seth Meyers? Conan? Who do you like? Who are you guys? No, but right now the active guys doing monologues. It's Kimmel and Seth Meyers and, of course, Stephen Colbert, right? Who's your favorite? Mine is, I like Seth Meyers. I like the way he does it at the desk and the pictures come up, and sorry if you missed them because it's only audio. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I'm going to do for you here on the Clip Show and the Shit Show. I do have a great conversation with Sam Youngman coming your way right now. If you're not subscribed over at The Alt Media, go to thealtmedia.com. And they are doing great stuff. He and Adam Parkomenko over there. And I love talking to Sam. Everybody loves when I talk to Sam. And it's always a great conversation. He is a veteran journalist. He teaches political science now out in California. He's a surfer who just tore his MCL surfing. He's a good friend. He's a caring and thoughtful guy. He is a sober guy, been in recovery for several years now, and he plugs the suicide hotline at the end, 988. That's how thoughtful he is, because it's that time of year. People get lonely and depressed this time of year especially, and I just love that. I love everything about him, and I always love talking to him. He's got a tremendous amount of integrity, credibility, and he's real smart and extra funny. Always love it. Let's do it right now with the great Sam Youngman. Yeah, Sam Youngman is here. Look at him. He's
What's
broken.
up, buddy?
He's broken, but he is here. He has a surfing injury.
It's true, but I've been broken for a long time.
Well,
yeah. No, I tore my MCL surfing a couple weeks ago, so I'm out of commission for a little bit. But bad news for Republicans and everybody who knows me is that my mouth works just fine.
Yes, and I'm happy that it does, and the newsletter continues to publish. But I got to ask you, have you developed any opinions? Have you had any experiences with the healthcare system as a result?
Yes, in that I feel enormously lucky to have the health care that I have. It's been, I've been very fortunate and been reminded how many people are not, especially after Senate Republicans decided today that everybody can just live with higher premiums. So yeah, no, I've been feeling very lucky. I tell you, as I'm going through physical therapy and stuff like that, it's just a really good reminder that you can take care of yourself. You can do everything you're supposed to do, and shit still happens because we're made out of meat sacks. And the idea that Republicans are pushing that, just don't get sick, is not a healthcare plan.
Well, one of the ways to not get sick, one of the many ways to try to stay healthy, is to exercise. And it's not irrational for someone with a bad health insurance or no health insurance to not be active, to do things that they love to do for fear that you might get hurt. And so it's such a bizarre thing to be discouraged against riding a bike or skiing or any number of things where you could get injured, or just running, needing some kind of surgery on your back or your knee. But that's the case. That's America. It ain't Australia or Canada, which is why they're in a lot better shape, I argue.
Yeah, no, they also don't have a Health and Human Services secretary who's like taking shots of Drano and then dry humping parking cones. So, I mean, there's there's a lot of things we could be doing differently if we actually gave a shit about the health of our citizenry. That's for sure.
Do you think that it's a good idea, however, criticize them if you want, RFK Jr. and Sean Duffy, but the idea of putting jungle gyms in airports, you travel a good bit. Don't you think that's a good idea?
I think that was thrown out at the bad idea factory, and even they were ashamed of it. I got to tell you, I stay mad at the media, but not one reporter asked, hey, how many airport personnel were pulled away from their jobs so you assholes could do pull-ups here in the damn terminal of the airport? It's wild to me. I think I always believed that if things got crazy enough, Americans would see it with their own eyes, and they would start to say, hey, this looks crazy. The sight of these two idiots doing chin-ups in the airport, one of the idiots who usually works out in jeans, when he's not arm wrestling his brain worm. I mean, if this doesn't do it, if people can look at that and go, it seems normal, seems fine, then what is there? What is left?
I think a lot of people did, though. It was impossible to measure. I think a lot of us did look at that and go, well, that's crazy. The transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, apparently is in charge of NASA and everything. It's just crazy. Yeah. He's been encouraging people to dress nicer at the airport, which a weird thing for government to tell you how to dress when you travel, much less how to eat or how to exercise.
Fucking socialist? Yeah, no, it's outrageous. I've been silently protesting. I have only flown crotchless the last few days. Right. I'm sending a message.
I wear one of those blankets with sleeves.
Yes, I wrote "fuck Sean Duffy" on the old taint, and it's yeah. No, what's funny is the push-ups were so bizarre that it sort of pushed away the actual craziest part, which was RFK talking about breastfeeding, talking about baby formula, and I'm not going to do an impression because, frankly, I would hate for that to live on the internet forever. But if you miss having nightmares. Or you just need some new trauma in your life, I highly recommend checking out the video of Drano Throat fucking talking about mother's milk. Yeah, it's terribly upsetting.
It's so crazy. Also, on the vaccine board, it's like a who's who of cartoon villains, and I bet you if we could see them, and I think you could, there's video, I think, of them trying to decide whether or not they should vaccinate babies for things like Hep B. They're wearing like cartoon villain outfits, probably. Like I just can't. They're the craziest scientists or doctors, are not even necessarily. So one of the people that gave a slideshow for the conference apparently was just a lawyer that RFK Jr. knew or something like that. He wasn't even in front of a bunch of scientists. It's so weird how you have all of these posers who aren't qualified standing in front of the most qualified people in the world, whether it's Health and Human Services, Department of Defense. Like so many of the people in the regime that are running the show have no qualifications. The arrogance and audacity that they have even addressing these groups is something to marvel at.
No, I agree. It's horrifying to watch. I mean, they might as well have given a seat on the board to measles. I tell you, it's funny to me. I want to meet people who are like, that Dr. Fauci was just way too qualified. Have you seen the bright red, roided out freak show who's doing pull-ups in his jeans at Muscle Beach? That's the guy I want to take health advice from. I don't get it. I don't think I ever will.
Next, I'd like to hear from Rubella. Go ahead.
I don't make the mother's breast milk is not as good as great for me.
I would like to
see how somebody would throw away their whole career for that. I mean, it's pretty fucking hot.
It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Oh, man. Oh, all right. Well, that's, I think we covered a little bit on health as a result of your own injury. But I have to ask you about defense, which also could be described as health. I've always said if you're more afraid of a terrorist attack than a heart attack, you've been duped. But we are now being convinced to be worried about boats in the southern hemisphere that have outboard motors that are not coming to America at all. Yeah. And we're blowing them up. This has been one of the biggest stories for a couple weeks now. And I think that's good. I think it's really good. I
agree.
Unfortunately, a lot of Americans for years now have not cared about people that they think they hate or that they think are bad being anywhere from tortured to murdered on the high seas. That seems to be the case now with plenty of those in charge from Hegseth on down. What do you make of the story? What do you make of the longevity and relevance of it? And what do you think, where do you think we're going here? Are we going to, hopefully get testimony from Hegseth himself? Isn't he going to have to answer tough questions from Republicans? He's not going to look so tough.
I mean, he should. Yeah, I'm like you. I am thrilled that murder is still a hard line for a lot of people on Capitol Hill. Not so much Tom Cotton. I feel like every time Tom Cotton talks, it's to say one of two things: either jail Americans or kill Americans. Either way, not somebody who should be in the U.S. Senate. Look, man, Trump and Hegseth are killing people. They're doing it without a trial. They're doing it without much evidence. And the fact that there is outrage, the fact that there is pushback gives me a hell of a lot of hope, because I'll tell you, a few months ago, I would have thought that this would have just gone by without a peep. So the fact that lawmakers care, the fact that reporters care, I think is a damn good sign that the American heart, while beating faintly, is still very much there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I think that's one way of looking at it and putting it. What do you think about the rest of the kind of beating war drums to potentially Venezuela? Yesterday, they grabbed an oil tanker, which seems like a pretty big escalation. What do you think?
I mean, the more I looked into the oil tanker thing, the more it seemed like just a normal thing we do when we think oil is being smuggled to Iran. The problem is, it's when Trump talks about it, it sounds so fucking crazy. If Trump said, "Hey, we're going to put a 500-foot green woman in the harbor at New York," you'd be like, "That's fucking crazy." And then you remember Statue of Liberty, and it's like, we've gotten so trained that this guy is such an unhinged lunatic that even when he tries to say something normal, it's utterly terrifying. Tanker notwithstanding, you're right. The drums of war are being beaten as we speak. You and I are of an age where we were on the scene or coming onto the scene when the Iraq war drums were beating.
Yeah,
I remember then, just starting out as a journalist, thinking, surely everybody can see that there's no reason to do this. But they really did the full court press to lie to us. They even sent Colin Powell to the UN with those bullshit videotapes to lie to us and convince us that this was about the war on terror, that this was about freedom, and this was about ending Saddam Hussein's tyranny. Now, horseshit. Trump and the Republican Party now, they're not even bothering to lie to us. It's about oil. They're trying to lie to us and say it's about drugs, but we know better. I don't know. I've got the same question I always have when we do this shit. Which one of their kids is going to be the first one on the ground?
Well said. Absolutely.
Is Barron Trump registering for the Army? Is he enlisting as we speak?
I don't think so. I think he's
probably too busy playing with Andrew Tate online.
Yeah. What was that all about? That there's reporting that he was in contact or in touch with Andrew Tate, Barron Trump.
I mean, I guess when your daddy's a rapist, it's not that big a deal to hang out with other rapists, right?
Yes, that's a pretty good way of seeing it. All right, let's go from defense to the economy. Man, shit is looking
We're on a roll.
Bleaker and bleaker for the economy. Prices are up. It's impossible to deny it. Apparently, there's been thousands and thousands of job losses every month for the last 3 months. We don't really know exactly what's going on because the Department of Bureau of Labor Statistics is not publicly putting out statistics, which is a weird thing because I thought that's what they did, but the regime doesn't want people to know how bad it's gotten. I guess markets are still doing pretty well. They think maybe this AI bubble is not a bubble, not yet, but I don't think we should be measuring the health of the economy ever by someone's 401k, not necessarily. And so what do you Trump is out there. He was out there touting it, doing one of his dumb rallies, I guess. But you can't lie to people that the economy is A++, as he said. You just can't. Everybody knows how everything is still expensive and getting more expensive.
Yeah. I mean, the sort of Trump's defining philosophy when it comes to bad news is if I don't see it, it's not real. So that's why we don't get the GDP to report anymore. That's why we don't get the PPI inflation report anymore. And it's why we're not getting, CPI. And it's why we're not getting jobs reports anymore, because the economy is terrible. Because like every single economist warned, tariffs are stupid And they made everything, their attacks on Americans, they've made everything more expensive. And so we're seeing the AP has Trump's approval rating on the economy at 36%. 31%. It's 36% approval overall. 31%. Do you realize when George Bush left office, his overall approval rating was around 32%? Now, this was after a global financial collapse and an illegal war that nobody wanted. So, yeah, Trump is in W territory. And not in a good way. You say that you can't lie forever, that people will see the truth. I think that's probably right. But I thought that during COVID too, and I was shocked by how many people were willing to invent their own truth because they couldn't handle the actual one. So those of us on Earth, it's a no-brainer. Of course shit's more expensive. I keep thinking maybe the White House press should have raised a few more red flags when this asshole kept talking about building an economy from the 1800s. You know, I don't know that China was doing that. They stayed here in 2025. So maybe it should have been a bigger concern that the president was promising to take us back a couple hundred years.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing to promise, but it's a good point to bring up COVID and the reactions from people on the right, obviously, and what it meant for the results of the election of 2020. I mean, arguably it's why Blob Vila didn't get reelected. But I think that this is probably, sadly, it's worse for him because I argue that there's a huge percentage of Americans that do not care about other people. Call them whatever you want. They might even be sadists. They might enjoy the suffering of other people. But so they might not care about someone getting sick and dying of COVID. Even if it's someone that they love, they might not blame the administration, but they do care about how much shit costs at the grocery store and how much cars cost and how much energy costs and specifically the cost of their health care. They're trying to say that Democrats and liberals are somehow more reliant on something like Obamacare, which is not the case. Plenty of people in red states are arguably more. Or Medicaid. Again, plenty of people in red states depend. So with your price of healthcare and everything else going up, it would seem to be probably more impactful, is what I'm saying, than COVID was even.
I'm not sure I understand.
People being like how much they blame Trump for COVID.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
versus
just shit costing more. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It's like it's an immovable object, right? It's that thing that Trump runs into every once in a while where he can invent his own reality. I mean, there's a reason his numbers are falling apart. Even on the right, we're seeing more and more. I mean, Fox News polls on the economy are showing Republicans are in revolt. Yeah, I mean, look, people know when the economy is good. They know when it's not. And, you know, we had a vibes-based economy during the Biden years, and that's not going to stop. People aren't buying the stats. They're not buying the lies. They're buying, what they see at the grocery store.
People won't know about this, probably the general public, but we pay attention to it. Obviously, $12 billion bailout for farmers as a result of the administration itself destroying their markets. Imagine if that were a Biden presidency or any Democrat that caused an entire industry, specific part of an industry, soybean, corn farmers, whatever, to lose access to their markets to the point that all the rest of us had to bail them out with $12 billion. I feel like there should be a lot more outrage, including from farmers, some of which are getting that bailout and still support Trump. I have no forgiveness for those people. But what do you say about that bailout caused by that hole in the economy caused by the tariffs? And then they said, by the way, we wouldn't be able to give them the $12 billion if not for the money that the tariffs are taking in. It's how.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is the second time he's had to do this. Yes. He did it during the first administration, too. Yeah. So that's why I don't feel sorry for the farmers. They knew he was going to fuck them, and they voted for him anyway. Yeah. Here's my plea to those farmers. You've got your welfare money. You've got our money in your pocket. Don't spend it on drugs. Don't spend it on junk food. Don't spend it at the arcade. Okay? Be responsible. We don't want you sitting on the couch playing video games all day, okay? Get back to farming. That's how that's supposed to work, right? If somebody needs help, you shame the shit out of them and question their lifestyle habits. Isn't that the way this works?
I think that's really well done. I would question your incentive for them not to go to the arcade.
Is that a little dated?
It just feels a little dated. Like, won't they just sit home and play video? Like, I don't think they're gonna some big old farmer.
Don't go to the discotheque. Yeah, don't.
Discotheque. I got to ask, did you see there's a bunch of hearings on Capitol Hill today? Kristi Noem was up there with her face that doesn't move. There's this guy, FBI National Security Operations Director. I don't know if you saw these clips.
Yeah, I did. The Antifa guy?
This guy is basically, and this is really important, we got to make fun of him, but like, you know, when Republicans come in and get in charge of the Department of Justice, much less the FBI, all of a sudden, you know, the enemies change, right? It becomes political. And basically what he said today in his testimony is that the greatest domestic terrorist threat was Antifa. And then later was asked about the Proud Boys and why they were being taken off this list of extremists. And he said he basically didn't even know who they were. So white supremacists, extremists, Christian white nationalists are now working in the government. He's probably one of them. And they are no longer targeting violent extremists that have caused a lot more problems, more crimes, and murdered more people than anyone that is even remotely affiliated with Antifa, which I don't know if anybody remotely affiliated with Antifa has killed anyone. And so what do you make of their priorities? What do you make of that guy's testimony today?
Yeah, I mean, the Proud Boys are in the building. I mean, he can't condemn violent right-wing extremists because he works for them. The reality is Trump has had Proud Boys around him since becoming president again. You know, he's sent a lot of mixed messages since he became president again. But one thing he's been very clear about is that if you commit violence on his behalf, he's got your back. You know, he's pardoned more people than any other president, but still the largest chunk of those people are January 6th scumbags. We're talking about people who, since that pardon, have been charged with child porn and tried to argue that the pardon covered that. Domestic abuse. I mean, just the scum of the earth. And we also know that some of them work for DOJ. I mean, it's the reality. We put the bad guys in power, and now they're doing what bad guys do.
He just pardoned some guy who defrauded investors to the tune of billions. I think that one of the worst crimes you can commit, the worst nonviolent crime that you could commit is taking someone's savings. To me, that's one of the most evil, horrible thing. People kill themselves sometimes when someone scams them like that. My daughter was scammed out of $5,000. Generous listeners actually, when it did a GoFundMe, amazingly, and
that's nice.
And made her whole. This was a few years ago. She's still traumatized by that. Yeah. And as you would be, she worked so hard 2 summers to make that money, to save that money, and then gone in a blink from a scammer. Trump just pardoned a guy who'd scammed people. I can't find his name here, but I don't know. What's your reaction to that? How do you?
Oh, I'm with you. It makes me fucking sick. I mean, a court goes through the process of ordering restitution in the name of justice, and then Trump says, fuck that and fuck the victims. I don't know if you saw this, but recently pardoned George Santos, who was given a free pass on paying the restitution and millions of dollars to the people he scammed. Well, he had himself a nice holiday party in D.C. last night, and several Republican members of Congress showed up, including Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee. And Burchett was quoted as saying, "I'm glad he got pardoned. That was a hell of a party." I don't think Tim's all that worried about the people that George Santos fucked over. No, it's disgusting. I mean, these are the people, to me, this has always been the greatest sin of Trumpism, is that he hurts the people who love him because he doesn't care about them. You look through his past, who was signing up for Trump University, who was buying Trump steaks, who was buying Trump vodka. It was all his supporters, and they're the people he fucked over first. Oh, yeah. So we might hate him, but that's a good thing for us, because if we loved him, he'd be screwing us up over even more.
Yeah, everybody who ordered a Trump phone that still hasn't gotten it, like back in the summer. NBC News did a follow-up.
I saw that, yeah.
By the way, that guy's name was David Gentile, and he was prosecuted by the Trump administration, apparently. $1.6 billion scheme. 10,000 investors. 10,000 investors were defrauded. And he also waived the fines that he had to pay.
Yeah. No, he does that with all these people. Says you don't have to do the restitution. It's sick. I tell you what it is. It's adding insult to injury.
There's no way, by the way, someone's not paying for these pardons. They're paying. And
Oh, I mean, there have been quite a few examples of somebody's mom goes to Mar-a-Lago and then she writes a check for $1.3 million to the library, and then a week later her son gets a pardon. I mean, it's not even being hidden that well. And frankly, I think if and when we retake the House next year, I'd really like to see some hearings on this because I think it's something that moves the needle with the American people. It's so blatant in its corruption. I think by and large, we are a merciful people and, we believe in second chances, but not like this, not the kind of shit he's doing.
Last thing I really wanted to obviously get your take on is the other issue that really hasn't left the news, because every day we see images of people, overwhelmingly black and brown, being snatched and chased on the streets and kidnapped by masked agents. It is our worst nightmare, and it is every day. It is happening. Again, it's mostly happening to those communities. It is inspiring to see white folks in everywhere from Minneapolis to Chicago to elsewhere standing up for these people, standing in front of cars and using their privilege to protect them. So I'm inspired by the reaction of everyday Minnesotans, those in Minneapolis. I've been really inspired by that. But what do you make of the latest development, another story that's been in the news for a couple weeks now, because we have had such an unprecedented attack? Really, it used to be a little bit quieter, behind closed doors, shithole countries. Now he's being way out and basically he called Somalis garbage people. And the reaction to it and the reaction to what they're trying to do to those folks there. Just saw today the Minneapolis police chief apologized to a young man who during his lunch break got kidnapped and then released, of course. What do you make of all what's happening to the Somali community, the language being used about him, and how much does that matter?
I mean, it makes me sick to my stomach. I'll tell you, though, I'm somewhat encouraged by it, and I'll tell you why. Trump is losing it. He's losing control. He's losing his leverage. He's losing his power. And the more he loses that, the more openly racist he gets, the more openly gutter he gets. Ilhan Omar, when did this become a thing? When did Somalians do something to this country to offend it? They didn't. We need a person of color to attack because the midterms are coming up and we're fucking losing. I'll tell you, right before we came on the air today, the Indiana State Senate voted on redrawing the congressional maps. You know, Trump has been twisting arms, threatening them for weeks. This morning, the Heritage Foundation, Heritage Action, put in a tweet. We have made it clear, the president has made it clear to Indiana Republicans that if they don't pass this, that means no more road funding, no more federal funds. That's extortion. It's just flat out extortion. And you know what? Indiana Senate Republicans voted against Trump. It went down. And not by a small margin either. 21-19, just Republicans. That's not the overall vote. That's just the Republican caucus, 21-19. Trump is losing his juice, and he's freaking out about it. And the more he freaks out, the more we see what a real asshole he is.
That's a huge development today. Top line news, Indiana lawmakers rejecting Trump's new political map. I actually didn't see that, but I think that the point that you just made is the most important point. I've heard others making it. He's getting weaker and weaker, lame, duckier, and more. And we see Republicans standing up to him for the first time. Marjorie Taylor Greene and other House members, some of them retiring, obviously, but being outspoken and calling themselves America First, not MAGA. There is a fracture in the MAGA movement, and a lot of people are talking about it and covering it. So let me just ask you that before I let you go. Nick Fuentes clearly leading that fracture, mainstreaming his ideas, and you're not necessarily seeing the kind of pushback you would imagine from Groper, Cleveland, or a lot of other leading Republicans. So what do you make of this fracture, and how do you kind of describe the narrative?
So good. I hadn't heard that one before. Look, it's real right now. Every election I covered, I would always look at the polling after a primary just to see how fractured the parties were. And one of the better examples I can think of was when Rand Paul beat Mitch McConnell's handpicked candidate for the United States Senate in a primary. And if you looked at the polling right after that, it showed, I think, like 40% of Republicans saying they would never vote for Rand Paul. On Election Day, it was something like 97% of Republicans voted for Rand Paul. It's sort of like the pussies in the House who are like, hey, we're going to vote against Trump this time. And then at the end, they cave. So I'll believe it when I see it. But I'd say today is very encouraging. I mean, I think a lot of these folks are remembering they want careers beyond 3 years from now. And they're just acknowledging, a simple reality of American politics in that whatever's happening today, the backlash will be happening tomorrow. I think a lot of people dug early graves for themselves in the first few months of this year by assuming this shit would last forever. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Caroline Leavitt was asked today about the Band-Aids on the back of Trump's hand.
I did see it. Yeah.
And she said, we've told you this. It's about shaking hands. That's an obvious lie. And you know who told us that lying about the president's health is a worse scandal than Watergate? Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson and several other journalists spent the first few months of this year telling us that the president's health was the most important issue there was. He called Laura Trump and apologized to her. He went on Megyn Kelly's show. So many of these people, from corporate America to the media, were trying to position themselves to get into Trump's good graces based on a single election result, thinking this would last forever. Well, it's not lasting forever. The tide is turning, and a lot of those people are going to end up with egg on their face.
Do you not think the bruise on his hand is because he shakes so many people's hands? And if it is, how weak is that?
I know, what a delicate little flower he is. It's no, I don't think it's from shaking hands. Frankly, I don't even know why it would be the back of your hand that got bruised.
You don't press your fingers into the back of someone's hand when you shake their hand. You don't
I mean, that's just normal, right? And then you stick a knee in their belly. I mean, that's just how normal people shake hands. That's
All right. I'll let you go, Sam. I love talking to you. Is there anything else before I go? Did you see the Kennedy Center honors? Did you like that? You must have been excited to see some of your favorite artists being honored.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a Kiss fan, but that's especially true now. They can kiss my ass. Gene Simmons seems like a truly terrible person. I really wish nothing but the worst to him.
The people making fun of Sylvester Stallone's hair, I was there for all of that. I think Stallone accepted the honor. He's a Trump supporter, I think, but I think he also didn't want to be seen. So all the pictures I saw, Stallone was standing behind Trump.
He's like Gretchen Whitmer. Yeah.
Hiding.
Hey, Pete, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me for a second, just before we go, it's the holidays, man. I know a lot of people are having a hard time, especially if they're alone or if they're missing somebody. I'm taking every chance I can to remind people that the crisis hotline number is 988. If you need to talk to somebody, please call that number. We want you here. We need you here. The world's a better place with you in it. So, please call that number if you need to.
Love that. Thank you for saying that. I'm going to edit it out.
It's like you work for RFK. What the fuck, man?
No, I just
you're jockeying for a position on the CDC board.
I just support a different crisis hotline. I get paid by a different one.
It's like, yes, I'm really down and I don't know if I can make it. Sir, this is how you prepare a butterball turkey.
I'm really struggling and I just don't know. So you called Apple, the computing company, not but we'd like to help you. That's the kind of that's a very thoughtful thing to do, and you're absolutely right. And I should mention it every day as well on my show. Sam, always a pleasure to have you. Get better soon.
Thanks, man.
In case you missed it, he tore his MCL surfing while saving a baby seal, though, so it wasn't for nothing. Yeah. And we hope you're back on the board soon. And I'm very grateful to have you whenever we get you. Thank you very much, my friend.
Pete, you're the best. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
There you go, Sam Youngman, The Alt Media. Another great appearance. TheAltMedia.com. Go subscribe right now and say hi to Sam on Blue Sky. And that's it. That's what I've got for you. Join me live with Barry Ritholtz at 9 a.m., then with Chrissy Greer at 11:15 a.m. Allegedly both. They can always cancel. They're not contractually obligated to join me. Not paying them, but I hope they will. And I hope you will as well over at Substack and YouTube at Stand Up with Pete. If you're not subscribed over there, please do it now. That would be great. Thanks very much for joining me this week. I'm also going to try to get together with Christian Finnegan maybe later this afternoon. We'll see. And you can see him at the DC Improv next weekend, by the way. Want to plug that. That's it. That's all I got. Let's talk to you tomorrow. John Carroll taking us out right now. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. And go listen to the Hangout if you want to not feel alone. There's a link to it. Today's show notes. Now I'm done talking for reals.
Stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. We got to ride. the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. And even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. This is the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and